Hey, good morning, everybody. Another great, beautiful morning, and we got Representative JJ Humphrey with us today, as every day when we come on. And we've had again a whole full week of incidents throughout the facilities. It just seemed like it's never going to stop. So, JJ, what have we got for today?
Bob, I'm going to tell you something. It has been hard to keep up. I announced that I was going to run for lieutenant governor. And so I've been just running, but I'm keeping up with Department of Corrections. And you can't keep up with them, Bob. You cannot keep up with if you try to keep up with who's gotten stabbed, killed, tried to commit suicide in the Department of Corrections, good luck. So we'll just kind of start with the biggest one right now with what is going on, Bob, at Allen Gamble. I was told last night, I've got two different reports of inmates being stabbed. Now, we don't know, are they dead, not dead? We don't know. But I was told that possibly four inmates stabbed at Allen Gamble last night. And then that they've had beat downs, that there's beatings going on. You know what that sounds like? I think Kay Thompson, what would she call that, do you think, Bob?
That's a group disturbance.
A group disturbance. I
Yeah,
would
we
say
don't
that
have
would
riots anymore.
yeah,
Just
no rights, but I would say that would rate up there with Kay's group disturbance. Now last time I think she said that about 30 people were involved and two dead, but now this time we have four stabbed and a bunch of people beaten, is what I'm told. So I think it'd probably rate a group disturbance. Bob, I'm trying to keep up with just that prison. I mean, every day. I mean, it's every week we are including that prison.
well, they have to be setting a record on the number of deaths.
Oh, that prison's got to be. I mean, Bob, I can tell you that prison in 1 year would have more stuff go on than when I worked in the Department of Corrections than would have went on in the entire Department of Corrections when I worked. That one prison.
Yeah.
But we're not stuck to that one prison. I think, Bob, I think there was possibly two deaths. And when we say possibly, guys, the reason we're saying possibly, we're saying we're reporting, we're saying we're hearing. We want to clarify you cannot get information right now. Information is shut down. These illegal, violating, uh, and it's not just, Bob, it's not just Department of Corrections. Every one of these state agencies are doing this, are completely shutting down, won't allow information.
Violating this,
Open records, they violate it. They don't care. It doesn't matter.
non-transparency. They don't want to be transparent.
But that's why when we come out, guys, we used to really vet this stuff. We used to really dig down and say, okay, we know this is for fact and we verified it. Bob can tell you that I used to be like, no, Bob, that's not good enough. We got to verify this. You
Yeah.
can't verify it. You can't verify it because of their illegal activity with the open records. So that's why we've had to revert to saying, this is what we've heard. This is what we're reporting. And so we want to be clear. So we've heard two deaths in Hart. Don't know what, Bob, have you heard anything on it's that?
Well, I think one of them was a CO, but it wasn't. It was caused just by maybe a heart attack or something like that. I don't know exactly, but it was. I think
Oh,
they probably worked him to death. Who knows?
so one of those deaths was actually an officer who died uh, just natural causes.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, he's in a stressful. Bob, I don't know. I don't know if I ever told you this, but you'll remember one time we were trying to pass a law, and this was OCP. Me and you were working on it, and officers and everything. But we were trying to get where they had the stress-related PTSD. Okay, you remember that
Yeah.
bill we tried to pass
Yeah.
to recognize that correctional officers could have PTSD. And I remember I went and enrolled in a class there in Oklahoma City to take because I needed some cleat hours and they had a PTSD class. So I went to this PTSD class. And I will never forget because I went in and told the lady, hey, here's what I'm doing, and so she really kind of targeted it towards correctional officers. She's taught the class aiming more at correctional officers. And she was talking about like the average person in a lifetime. You think about this, Bob. How many people have you seen stabbed? How many people have you seen, you know, beaten to death and all the stuff? Imagine the pictures that we've showed. And I want to just say this. I showed pictures to Bob one day, and I mean, it emotionally affected him. I mean, he was for that. You remember that, Bob? I showed
Yeah.
that picture of that kid.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, you got upset. Okay. So the average person sees that maybe 3 or 4 times in a lifetime. In a lifetime. Our officers are seeing stuff like this every day. Police officers, they talk about how much police officers, hey, police officers, I'm not down in police officers, but they're not seeing the stuff correctional officers are seeing right now in these prisons every day. And anybody says that doesn't bother them, guess what? It affects you. It affects you. And so again, the stress levels, what's going on in these prisons on our officers. Can you imagine working at Allen Gamble? Man, I mean,
Well, there are a lot, I guess Red Rock.
yeah,
Our
Red Rock's
OSP,
coming up today.
OSP's got they got a lot of deaths too, a lot of stabbings.
Well, they had one at one of the rehabilitative. Is that they've got a second part of that rehabilitative center out there? I think they had a stabbing or murder out there, if I remember correctly. Um, that's what I'm saying, Bob. I'm getting so many reports you can't remember correctly.
Well,
But I
Jackie
know they had,
Brennan, you take Jackie Brennan in there. I mean, I feel sorry for those folks. I mean, they're nervous wreck, having to go
well,
over
Bob,
to
they had a
OSP. They're
death.
not trained for that.
They had a death at Brandon too. So
Yeah, that's what I
Brandon was one
understand.
of the ones that had a death, and then they're making those officers. And man, I'm hearing, Bob, that they're quitting. I think there was a death at Lexington, Bob. So a death at Lexington. We got all these stabbings at Allen
Gamble.
Gamble. We had. I didn't know. I'd listed that as 2 deaths at Harp. I didn't know one of those was that correctional officer. I'd actually put, condolences to the family and to, all of those for the officer, but I didn't know he was included.
Well, see, I don't know if that's one of them is included or not. I just know that he did pass away. There's an
Yeah,
officer, very well
I
liked.
just, I just got a report of 2 deaths there at Harp, and it very well could have been a, you know, an officer. So, Bob, it's crazy. I will tell you something else that happened. And there at OSP, they had another stabbing. I was told the guy got his guts completely ripped out, that he stabbed and it just cut his whole guts out. And so, how's that happening at OSP? It's just unbelievable the stuff's going on at OSP. I also, Bob, heard a guy had cut his own throat. And again, what I was told, this guy cut his own throat. Now, again, that's hard to believe. They said it was a suicide attempt. I personally know I am not going to cut my throat. Okay, I'm not going to cut my throat. Now I might hang myself. I'm not going to commit suicide because I kind of like myself, Bob. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to commit suicide, it ain't going to be by throat cutting. You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, is that really a suicide, or are they investigating that as a possible murder attempt? I think the guy is still alive. I don't know that for sure.
I think there was a murder homicide at OSP that was never reported. It was just reported after a month, I think.
Bob, I was told that like this inmate is missing. I got to get on that, Bob. I got to get on that because I was told that it's just like vanished. Nobody knows nothing. Inmate gone, and
Yeah.
that's what I've been screaming. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, JJ, we've had at DOC, we've had in the last 10 days 3 longtime officers were terminated. because they weren't doing the count. And it comes down to they got several jobs, responsibilities they got to do because they've been mismanaged and so short-handed. And so, but they do the count. They get their count done anyway, but it's not done the way they want to do it exactly. But these are guys that know how to count, been doing counting, hadn't had any trouble before, and then they just fire them. At it's pathetic at DOC now that they don't follow any progressive discipline. They just fire anybody they want, right on the spot, and you know, all we do, we file charge, and we file it with the courts, and we win, and they just keep appealing. We win, they appeal. We win, they appeal. We win, they appeal. And I think there's got to be a law against somebody using the system like that and continually lose, and continue doing the filing of extending it to go to the next step.
You know, Bob, that may be something that we need to talk in OCP. You know, I know it costs money to file the lawsuit, but it might be cheaper to file that lawsuit to say frivolous. I don't know what we need to really sit down and talk to the new lawyer and talk about it, you know, because again, when you have one case, okay, but when you have 38 cases, you know, I mean, how many cases? I don't even know how many cases we got. Used to, I could kind of tell you, well, we got 20, we got this, we got this. Now, who knows?
Well, we have 3 more this week that we got to file on.
Well, Bob, and just like that, why are you getting rid of long time look at dog, look at there? Well, hey, I got to stop. We got to tell a little story on that dog right there.
Yeah.
What's funny, guys? So Bob's had some dogs that he's had forever. They were great dogs, and they passed away, and he's been kind of there by himself. And so he'd call me about a dog down here in this area, and I got a hold of some people that I know. And anyways, I talked to them about this dog, and they said, well,
Okay.
there's a lady called for the dog, and that basically if she doesn't take it, you can have it. And I told her, I said, well, I've got a friend, and I explained the situation. She said, that's amazing. The lady that's calling has the same identical, said has the same thing going on with one of her friends. And I said, well, that's you know, wild. And so I called Bob back, said, hey, there's a lady calling at 7:30, and you know, she don't get it. And he goes, well, my friend is calling at 7:30 about this, you know. And I said, well, what's and anyways, turned out his friend was calling the same time I was calling. It was the same deal. And we ended up getting the dog. The lady was laughing, saying, well, it's meant to be then. And so I picked up the dog yesterday and took it to Bob. And so it is a really pretty dog. Seems like it's going to be a really good dog, Bob.
Yeah, you know, I'm very fortunate here in where I live at this edition, Twin Lakes. I had a number of people here calling, trying to find a doodle, you know, that was needed. And I had a doodle found, but then the guy told me that he had to get rid of it because of his wife is getting ready to have twins, and the dog doesn't like babies. Well, that dog wouldn't work for me because my grandkids have babies like rabbits, and so we just keep having them. So that wouldn't work. So had to pass on that. And that would. I was trying to find one that's already housebroken, and I gave up. And this dog here came up, and it worked out great.
Well, what was amazing is a doodle is kind of a rare, you know, I really hadn't even heard of that until I got to know you and them other dogs. And so what was funny to have one in Atoka County, because that's, Bob, can get a witness, that's not generally the kind of dog we have in Atoka County. And so to find out that was in Atoka County, and what was funny, I don't know if I told you this, Bob, I go down there to pick that dog up. Of course, I've talked to this girl some, and I know her father-in-law really, really well. Turned out I know her husband. Turned out I know her. But I get down there, and I'm like, okay, so you're this person. I said, what's your married name? And she tells me, And she goes, "You don't remember me, but in third grade, you taught me in DARE." So I used to teach that girl in DARE. I used to teach a course on drug abuse. And so I taught her in third grade, and she told me I enjoyed that class. And I was like, "So now you're Jim's daughter?" "No, no, daughter-in-law." And I was like, "So that makes you Dale's husband?" I said, you probably don't know this, but old Dale, he bales our hay up here at the place." And she goes, "Yeah, I rake your hay all the time." She said, "I'm raking your hay." So turned out that she's actually helping us get hay. And guys, it was just a funny story how all that worked out. And it was really, really meant to be. So just really tickled that he was able to get that dog. It's just a real blessing. It's great to see. But Bob, back on what we was talking about, some of these guys, one of these guys had like 19 years in, didn't
Yeah,
he?
over 19. I think he was just with months of retiring.
So you're going to fire a guy 19 years and just say, out of the blue, you didn't count right. And Bob, I was told that one of these guys said it's on video, him counting. And he went in there and said, "I want the video. I want to see me counting. I want to see the video." And that they wouldn't give him the video.
Right.
Bob, why is it? Now, if you're looking at Jackie Brandon, let's go back to OSP. You got an inmate die at Jackie Brandon, which is rare. Again, OSP had throat cut, guy stabbed with his guts hanging out. Now, you're short-handed. I'm getting some really good information on very short-handed OSP. That's why they're combining the two. That's why they're making people go from Jackie Brandon, which is causing a big ruckus because people don't want to go over, and I don't blame them. But you got to go wherever your boss says. That's where you got to go. Okay. But at the end of the day, what's causing that problem, Bob?
Mismanagement.
It is mismanagement, but they're short-handed. The shortage of staff is behind everything that we're talking about. And yet, what are you doing? You're firing a guy 19 years, no progressive discipline. You're firing a guy 10 years, 15 years for not counting. And again, is there not a way to work around that and say, "Hey, you got to count right"?
Well, JJ, where they're short, that means they got to give double duties to somebody, and sometimes triple, quadruple duties. So you're got to do your count. I understand that's important. That's probably one of the most important things you do as to get done. But then you got other jobs you have to do. If you don't get those done, then you get in trouble for that.
Well, Bob, when they start erasing the jobs, when they change their post orders so that it makes it say, where used to you were required to have 3 and now you have 1, and one guy's going to do what 3 did, and you still got the same number of inmates there. Things are out of control. It makes it worse. That's why they keep going back at OSP and saying, "Hey, we're going to not have to handcuff. We're going to have to," used to they were security minded with those inmates. You didn't open the door, people weren't in cuffs. Now they're saying just to go ahead and let them out, not cuff, not anything. Now that's the administration knowing that they're so short-handed, they got to change the rules. And again, that's what's getting people killed. On these counts, same thing. I agree. Counts are important. You got to do your count. Guys, above all things, just quit, stop, do your count. Whatever's going on, do your count. But y'all need to get a book. If I was y'all, I would be writing it down. I would be keeping record of all the things that I have to do that's over and above my duty, and them come back. And that's what these people are so damn sorry. They're sorry that they're going to require you to do 3 jobs, and then when one don't happen, they're going to try to fire you. And then we come back in, and again, they appeal it, not on their dime, on the state's dime, on the taxpayers' dime, and it's just unreal. It's just, Bob, it infuriates me what's going on, and especially, what makes me so mad, Bob. I get so dang mad I could cuss. Just I'm trying not to, but Bob, to have a director that, you know, what you looking at?
JJ, they told people uh, that they didn't care whether they like it or not. If they don't like it, quit.
Yeah,
What kind of a person has a? What do you have employees that you tell them like that? You treat them like that?
well, what makes me so mad, Bob, is you got a guy that carries a gun into OSP. You got a guy that Bob, Bob,
Bob, wait,
don't worry
just
about
talking,
it.
JJ.
Hey, we're gonna let Bob do his thing with his dog. He trying to take care of that new dog. But guys, here's what bothers me. This is what upsets me. Is that you got a director that has committed so many violations and serious violations, carrying a gun into that institution. I'm not, is that a law violation? I mean, if somebody else did that, would they be arrested? Because I know they tried to arrest a guy for carrying a knife in there. They tried to file charges, may have filed charges for carrying a knife in there. So this director carries a gun into the prison, not just a firing offense. That's a charge. Did anybody try to charge him? Was he charged with a felony crime or a misdemeanor, whatever it is? I think it'd be a felony to carry a gun into an institution. Guess what? He leaves a loaded shotgun. Now, all this reported, pretty good report. He leaves a loaded shotgun in the back of his seat and allows these inmates to clean his vehicle with a loaded gun in there, is what I'm told. You know, he misfires and tries to act like, oh, it's common occurrence for misfire. Yeah, let somebody else misfire their gun. Let one of these officers do that, and guess what? They'll be fired quickly, like that. You can get fired, just do count wrong, not do count. You're fired, okay? But now you can do all this if you're the director, not a problem. You know, so and then to give himself a raise, to go all over that acting like he's somebody that just Mr. Corrections. You know, never have a day in corrections, and he's going all over the United States acting like he's the most knowledgeable, you know, and then to have Kay sit around and say, oh, that, you know, we have all this knowledge and all this, you know, they don't know anything. They know absolutely nothing. Bob, what I was talking about that when you left, here's the deal, Bob. You got a director that carried a gun into death row, into OSP. Now, they tried to file charges on this guy for carrying a knife into the prison. I think that's a great claim. You know, charges, Bob, not fired. They fired him, but they tried to file charges on him.
They did file.
So they filed charges on a guy with a knife, but the director carries a gun in, no charges. And then they turn around and fire people on frivolous stuff when their greatest challenge, when their number one thing is we're short of officers, and this is what they're doing. Tell me what the logic. Tell me how that. You know, what are they doing, Bob? They get 7. They come in and they brag. We got 7 new officers. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, they target OCP members. They're trying to weed them out.
Well, Bob, they may do it, but I'm gonna tell y'all guys, OCP is what you need to join. You need to make sure you get it, and if you want to do it where they can't see that, I would do that. But I will tell you this, Bob, they're at a place where they should. You guys, y'all need to listen to this. You need to get together. It's way past time that if you do not band together, things are getting scary in there. Things are getting scary at the prisons. They've already been scary, but things are getting very, very scary at the prison. It is time that y'all start coming forward and reporting. And again, if you need to do that confidential, but I mean, listen, guys, you need to come forward. Some of the stuff they're having you do, work triple duties, work all this overtime, all these stabbings they're trying to cover up, all the assaults on officers that they're not reporting. These guys are covering everything up. And what we're finding out is just the tip of the iceberg. That's just what we're finding out. Y'all need to come forward and start reporting what's going on. And then we need to work with OCP to talk about, can we file a lawsuit that this thing's out of control? We need to talk about the protection of officers. But if there's ever been a day that y'all need to join, again.
But JJ, they make it very clear they don't care about the officers. They don't care about the nurses. They don't care about the caseworkers. They don't care about their employees. It's like a plantation owner, you used to whip them if they did something wrong. But to tell employees that you'll do it our way, whether it's right or wrong, and if you don't like it, quit.
Well, Bob, and I get that, and I get their attitude. They've had an attitude of that for a long time. You're just a number. You're just an employee. They've had that attitude for a long time. But where is it? Somewhere, if I'm running a business, Bob, let's just talk about a business. If we're out here making widgets, okay, that's what the Department of Corrections always you say. We're going to make widgets. And Bob, we got all our workers making all these widgets, and we're getting mad at them, and we're firing this one and firing that one, and we got a hostile work environment. People are leaving. At some point, you're going to get to where you can't function, where you can't make no more widgets. And if you can't make widgets, you're out of business. At what point do these people in the upper echelons of DOC realize when you get down to a certain level, you can't run your show? And when you start having to combine prisons so that you force people to go over here and work because you're so shorthanded, well, when you do that, it leaves this other place shorthanded. Well, guess what? Now we got a death over there. It's not brain surgery, Bob. It's not brain. And now here you're going to come and add the largest prison, probably, I don't know. I would say that this Red Rock's probably going to be the largest prison they got.
Oh, absolutely. Inmate wise.
Yeah, inmate count wise, I mean, they're going to have like 2,300 people over there. That is a huge, huge prison. If you want a comparison, I think they got about 7 or 8 at OSP.
Well, it's be interesting to see if they still put the mentally ill at OSP.
Well, they've dropped them right there in Red Rock. They've got them in Red Rock.
Red Rock, excuse me.
Yeah. Last I checked, they had 1,800 there at Red Rock. Out of that 2,300, they had dumped 1,800 right there. So again, that's insane. So, Bob, I'm just sitting there just amazed at how they're firing people when, and again, I look to that. I get a little update on how many employees. Somebody, I think Ramsey may have put that out first. I forgot who put that out first. Somebody started putting it out. Was that may have been Mud Puddle? What is Mud Puddle, Bob?
I don't know.
But they're putting, hey, Mud Puddle, whoever you are, you keep putting out the information. It's great. But whoever puts that out, they're showing, how many employees that they got. And so we went up in this last quarter or a couple of months. I think it's 3 months. We went up 7 officers. Now, everything else went down, but they went up 7 officers. And which still leaves them at 1,200 and something. And we were at almost 1,900, 2,000, whatever. So here's the deal. 7 officers. But Bob, while they went up 7 officers, we just named 4 or 5 that they fired. They just recently fired 3 for no counting, for miscounting. I know a captain they fired for what? I have no idea what they fired him for. I think they accused him of something that he wasn't even there.
Because he's been almost about to retire. That's why.
Bob, and I honestly think that there may be a lot of truth to that. I really think that they are targeting people on retirement. I think they are targeting people who have experience. I think they're targeting people who may be tied in with OCP. I think they're targeting anybody that they think will talk back, will talk, so I think anybody that knows the policy and knows how to, you know what I'm saying? They come in and say, you're going to do this. Well, hold on. Are you telling me to violate this? They don't want that person around. They just want a person who'll go over and do whatever they say, policy or no policy. They do not care about policy. The only time they get worried about policy is when they want to fire you and they want to say you violated policy. and Bob, that's been a history. This is what's funny. People would not believe this, but when I first went to work for the Department of Corrections, I was actually a fair-haired child. I was in the clique. I was in doing pretty well. Now, somewhere around 10 years, I had a little, I started getting into a little problem, and I ended up making them really mad, and they come after me. And I got this boss, and so one of the first times they write me up, they write a violation report on me, and I was just going to sign it, Bob. I had to piss on y'all. I just signed, you know what I'm saying? I didn't. And my boss called me, and he said, I want you to do me a report on this policy. And I tell my boss, I'm like, I ain't got time to mess that policy, man. I got more stuff to do. I ain't got time to read it. He said, I didn't ask you if you got time. I told you to do it. So, boy, I pull up the policy and I'm reading it. And I'm sitting there starting to read this and going, I didn't violate policy. They violated policy. And then I'm reading, I'm going, and they knew they violated policy. I call him back. I go, hey, let me tell you something. And he goes, yeah, I knew that. Oh, I was furious. And guess what? Boy, I cracked off a letter to the management up there, to the administration. Okay, we're going to just drop this. I mean, like that, dropped it. And from then on, that guy, my boss, created a monster when he did that. And he knows it. Because then I become, hey, and guys, that's why, I know that policy is a pain in the butt, and I know reading it, and I know keeping records on. But guys, you got to protect yourself. You got to read. They're the ones violating policy. And you got to read that policy, and you got to get in there. But guys, right now, I'm going to tell you, it's really not about policy. It's really not about jobs. It's really, let me tell you what it's about right now is that you go home. I'm going to tell you something. It's getting to the place. I'm talking to people all over the state, Bob. I'm talking to people all over the state, and I'm going to tell you, I don't talk to hardly anybody in the Department of Corrections that is not like, especially if they're at OSP, Allen Gamble, Great Plains. We're not hearing too much from Great Plains, but I still talk to people. Dick Connors, Lawton, any one of those, like I say, they're very, it's scary. It's scary times. People are scared for their life. People are scared to go to work. Bob, I was told that one of the employees told his kid just quit. Just quit. That's another one.
Too dangerous.
Told him, said, and here's what's funny. These people have worked corrections. They've built a life in corrections. Their family has built a life in corrections. You cut them, they bleed corrections. They love corrections. And they're telling their own family to say, hey, get out. It's just too dangerous. Now, when that starts happening, Bob, you got a serious problem.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, we're and again, Bob, I've turned in, I've reported this, and I've turned in there at Allen Gamble 8 murders. So I sent that into the Department of Corrections. Here are 8 murders that I know happened. Now I got another 7, kind of like what we're telling this missing kid. Where are these people? What is this? I got 7. I don't know what. I don't know. I'm being told they're dead. The medical examiner don't have them. Guess what? You can't. So I've got to work on that a little bit. But these 8 murders, I asked them to send. And Bob, they don't send me the OIG report. they send me an incident report that is so redacted you can't you can't even get who was involved. You can't get the two inmates that are involved. So Bob,
I bet you the DOC's happy to hear that, JJ.
do what?
I would bet you that DOC's happy to hear you say that.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. DOC, I honestly believe Bob, you set these dominoes up and you set them up and that chain reaction, that first one falls. Bob, if somebody, and I'm going to tell you, there's several people looking into this. So if somebody will do the investigations, it's not going to be, when it falls, then sooner or later somebody's going to have to jump up. And I guess the governor's the only one kept this. But if we ever do an investigation, a real investigation on the Department of Corrections, Mr. Hart, you would go to jail. You would go to jail. You are a criminal. You are a criminal. And these deaths are upon your hands. And again, what's going on in Allen Gamble is you. What's going on at OSP, Bob, if the guy did cut his throat, suicide, you know what we're hearing all the time? More suicide, more suicide. Does anybody ever stop and ask, why are all these people committing suicide? That wasn't a problem. You know, you would have a suicide. We've always had a deal called Suicide Watch. And Bob, most of the time when I worked, we kind of, that's what you do. That's what you're down there doing. You keep an eye on inmates, you listen to inmates, you gather information, you work your area, and hey, if there's a guy, other inmates will come and tell you, hey, that guy right there, he's depressed, something's fixed that. You take that guy, you put him in suicide watch. Okay? That's how you prevent all that. Guess what? There ain't none of that going on right now. I mean, people are just trying, you know what I'm saying? They're just trying to get count done. They're just trying to get feeding done. They're just trying to get the basics done. All this other stuff that used to happen with records and listening and finding out who's bringing dope in, who's got what, that's all gone. And another thing, Bob, they've outsourced all that, so they've taken all their OIG people and they put them outside the prisons. So guess what? And they don't want anybody else doing that because that's OIG. Refer it all to OIG. Well, guess what? When you refer everything out, then they come in and they got no rapport with these inmates. So guess how much information they're going to get? None, not good information. So again, we used to have people that handled that stuff right there in that prison. They no longer have people to handle that kind of stuff in prison, and it's out of control. We're out of control, Bob. I would say, and again, man, I got people calling saying, hey, we're that close to it, right? We've been hearing that for how long, Bob?
4 years.
But my thing is, and I've said it on here before, I believe we're going to make up a new word. Like I say, we're going to follow a deal. We're going to follow Harp's lead. And we're going to say, they're in a perpetual right. The whole place, the whole Department of Corrections are out of control. Every prison you talk to. I mean, if I'm talking down here at McLeod, you're hearing about inmates just walking down to where they keep their dogs or where they have their shooting range. If we'd had inmates doing that, we'd filed an escape on them. Now they call it out of bounds. They're out of bounds. They're on a walkabout. You know what I'm saying? What do they call it? Walk away.
Walk away.
Bob, I hadn't heard very many walkaways. I wonder what's going on with that.
No, they're probably just not telling it.
Well, and I'm just going to tell you, they don't have, Bob. They're claiming, and this is what infuriates me. They're claiming that they to build a stronger Oklahoma by transferring lives in a safe, rehabilitative, compassionate environment. And Bob, when I worked, man, we had keys to life, we had technology programs, we had care and all of these programs that were drug abuse programs. to address drug abuse and all kinds of stuff. And guess what? Right now, I think they've got a haircut thing. They've got a few technology, but they've dropped that back way. And that ought to be what they're. But Bob, when everybody's dying, cutting your throat, cutting your guts out, 4 people getting stabbed, dead at Lexington, dead at Branham, dead at Hart.
Still got the rapes.
Yeah, we ain't even talking about rapes and extortion and all the other abuses that are occurring, and assault on officers that are being covered up, and officers being spit on, and bodily fluids and other things transferred to them, and nothing, not even writing that up. Just don't even worry about that. Bob, they used to, there would be a charge filed, and some of them guys at OSP that's got 50 charges and life sentences, they don't care. But Bob, there'd be ways to address that to get that kind of stuff stopped. They're just letting it go right now. They're just, you know what I mean? And again, what do you read? If you read, you got articles. Oh, the Department of Corrections is now assuming Red Rock, and it is one of the most. And we look forward to seeing this large facility come on board, and blah blah blah.
I don't know where they're going to get the officers at. In the case, employees. Period.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, the thing don't read like it should. Hey, we just had a riot over in Allen Gamble, and if you look at how we transferred that from private to state, it's been a disaster. And now we're fixing to transfer the biggest one, and we're scared to hell about what's going. That's what it ought to read. That's how it ought to read, but it doesn't. It reads like this beautiful. Look how great we are. Look at what we just obtained. They don't say how they obtained it through false, through hook and crook. But Bob, I mean, what's going to happen at that facility? I mean, have you heard of whether I'm hearing that some of their officers are leaving? That is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Well, it's if they lose officers, if in that transition that people leave, Bob,
I think we took it over today, didn't we?
Yeah, it's going online today. It's going online, and if they lose hands, okay, let's look back, Allen Gamble, and let's look back at Great Plains. And when they kind of started those, what they did, they pulled from other prisons. So they pulled what they're trying to do at OSP with Jackie Brannon. They did that statewide on those two
facilities. Well, they got 500 inmates, and they'll have maybe five females on duty at night.
Right.
So if you have a problem, how long is it going to take you from OSP to get over there to help you with your problem?
And absolutely, Bob, that's a big question. But here's a bigger question. Now, what are you going to pull from if you're shorthanded at Lawton and you have 2,300 inmates and you're shorthanded? Who are you pulling from? What? Because guess what? When they were doing that and we were screaming, what in the world's going on? And we're shorthanded and how you pulling this? Guess what? We look like chance. I mean, that was 2 years ago. If you'd have told me 2 years ago that it could get way, way worse, I'd have said there's no way. And guess what? I just didn't know. I thought, this is a bottomless pit, Bob. I thought it had a bottom. It don't have no bottom. I mean, Harp has taken us. He's dug out the bottom and just kept going because, again, we're shorthanded right now. How do they – you tired, Bob? You stay up all night with that dog, Bob.
Yeah, just about.
But Bob, you hear what I'm saying? They're fixing to go online with the biggest prison. They start today. If people out there have quit, if people out there have left, if they're shorthanded, then they've got a massive problem because that's a nasty little place anyways. And what I mean by nasty, I mean it's just a rough place to work. They've had a lot of killings. They've had a lot of problems, even by the director's own admission, even by the governor. That's why the contract, I think that was just a play. But at the end of the day, the governor and the director are on record saying that prison's got lots of problems. I think it got cleaned up in that year quite a bit, but still has problems. And I think when somebody else comes in, and if they're shorthanded, Bob, it could go crazy. And then again, they're so short-handed and they're firing people. That's what just blows my mind, Bob. Firing people when they're at critical. I mean, they're at critical. They don't have the people to run this place. They are at a critical stage. The whole place could go up. I mean, when I say the whole place, I'm talking about uh, inmates have got these phones. They're able to communicate. And guess what? I mean, and they've done it before, Bob. We've seen it done before where they coordinate, you know, issues, not rights, but coordinate disruptions at the same time. Guess what? It causes havoc. And again, if they were to do that right now, uh, they don't have the manpower to deal with it at about any facility they got. That's not it. There's a few facilities that are okay. You take McLeod down there. Yes, they got some problems. Yes, worse than I've ever seen. Hamilton, guess what? We had that kid beat the other day. They're firing people, I'm hearing. Big issue. We forgot they had a fire down there not too long ago, burnt their, things. When you're talking about everywhere around the whole state, Bob, it's insane. Now this one goes on and they start needing help like before, and they start pulling 3 or 4 people from every prison to go down there and work. Bob, it at some point, the old saying, there's a straw, you can finally lay that straw up there, and it broke the camel's back. And again, they just keep sticking it up there. Somewhere it's going to break. Somewhere it's going to break. And again, when it breaks and people have to step in and come fix it, actually come in and fix the problem, and it becomes so evident of how, what a disaster this place has been. Again, there's no way they can't cover it up. It's at the point you can't cover it up. Anybody can see. What blows my mind is these legislators that have you know what I'm saying? Where are the legislators? Where are the senators? Where are the representatives? Where's the governor? Where's our government when this thing is that out of control? Same as what we've seen with the health department. I come in, hey, where's money? Where's all this? 6 months later, oh, we're $90 million short. Guess what? DHS, oh, we're $100 million short. DOC, here's what they're going to do. They're going to trick you. They're going to buy this prison. They're going to play y'all like fools. Guess what? They play them like fools. This is not hard to predict. And again, I'm going to tell you something. This right here is not. The only thing that gets me, Bob, is I am amazed that it ain't already happened. I am amazed that they have not lost. And when I say lost, the whole deal at multiple facilities.
Well, I think the only thing I can figure out is they're letting the gang members run the place.
Oh, Bob, they've had that for quite some time. I especially there at Allen Gamble, I get told that. But even down here at McLeod, I get a lot of stuff out of McLeod, MacAlford, OSP. Those are right down here in my area. And again, I get some from Hamilton. I know people over there and stuff. But even these prisons down here that normally got a pretty good handle on things, normally keep a pretty decent staff level. But you're seeing, I'm getting calls that, hey, they're going over here and doing this. They're letting them walk down here, and this inmate's going over here and having dinner at either the warden's house or the chief's house, or just stuff that should not be taking place, that doesn't. Just some things that just show you, hey, things are out of control. And that's even right here. That's at these prisons we normally don't think of having serious problems. And just like what you say, you see a death at Branham, you see a death at Hart. These are prisons. Bob, when I was working, man, Hart was like you want to go, if you were an older inmate, you were a sex offender, Hart was where you wanted to go because there was not going to be problems at Hart. Hart was kind of like, I don't want to say a retirement home, but you know what I'm saying? It just didn't have problems. You talk to people who used to work at Hart, and you know what? They took great pride in when we worked there. If you'll listen to them, if you know somebody worked in our, you listen to them, they'll say, you know what? When we worked there, you didn't have problems. You talk to people who used to work OSP, they take great pride in we were the toughest place and we handled business, and they didn't have problems. They took great pride in that. Guess what? Today, man, people are dying. I mean, can you, last 6 months, we've almost had a death. I bet we've had a death at HARP almost every other month, Bob. What do you want to bet?
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah, but I bet you we're up to 40 deaths at Allen Gamble.
Bob, I have no idea. I know I turned in to the medical examiner 29 deaths, and I can't remember what time frame that was over. I didn't have a specific time frame, so I can't say. But Bob, there's probably been 20 deaths since I turned that in, and that's been 4 or 5 months ago. But
Yeah.
there's probably been 20 deaths since then, I would bet. I mean, it's just like, well, like I say, 4 stabbed today. And we're not even talking, this is what's funny, Bob. We're talking about deaths. How many people been stabbed that didn't die?
Yeah.
You know, how many officers been assaulted that haven't been reported? And I'm going to tell you something. You know, that's just like the other day, I got told that a nurse and a correctional officer assaulted wasn't even turned in. And then when you look at this Ross case that I'm working on, and guys know this, I'm still a police officer, been a correctional officer, been a probation officer. Somebody spits on me, somebody spits on one of our officers, I got nothing for them. They need to be charged. So if this kid spit on an officer, guess what? But where are the charges, Bob? Where's the write-up? Where's all of that? And why did you take him and get people spitting on, throwing urine on, and you don't do anything? Why do you target him when somebody else assaults an officer and a nurse and you don't even move them? Bob, the other day I was told, and we're going to have to end on this. We're getting pretty close. Bob, I was told the other day they had 2 inmates at OSP got in a heck of a fight, had to call medical down. So a pretty good fight. Medical has to be called. Guess what they did with them?
What did they do? Put them in the same cell?
Put them right back in the same cell. I guess we need to buy one of them bells like ding, ding. That's round 1. Here comes round 2. And again, I was told they were back down there just a little bit later because guess what? You don't have to be a prophet. And in fact, the guy I was talking to, I was like, well, you called that one because they like, listen, JJ, watch this. And sure enough, hey, that night I'm getting guess what? They went at it again, and I didn't hear whether they got killed, whether they got, but Bob, that's the kind of stuff. When I worked, those would have went to different units. When I worked at Howard McLeod, we had a fight like that. They would probably leave. One of them was leaving the yard. You didn't leave them on the same yard. Now, I'm not going to say we didn't see a fight or two and we say, can y'all get along? And that happened. But, Bob, that's the kind of stuff going on. I mean, who does that? So it's out of control, Bob. That's the point that we're talking today. The place is out of control.
Well, JJ, it was another big week. It just topped the week before. It just continues on. So we'll wait till next week and see if we can maybe slow it down a little bit. See if maybe they don't have all this happen. It can't continue, but it looks like it's going to.
Bob, I think when we throw Lawton in the mix, I think, like I say, I think Lawton is going to be that straw on the camel's back that's going to overwhelm. They're at their wits' end right now. They had that one. I don't think they can handle it. I just don't think they can handle it. Hey, I do want to say one thing, Bob. I've announced that I'm running for lieutenant governor. So I'm in the race. I'm officially in the race. Anything that you people out there can do, our listeners, that can help me spread the word. I want to help. I want to change Oklahoma. Department of Corrections is one of the big things that I want to work on. Again, lieutenant governor is a place where most people wouldn't do much. I think we can change that. I think lieutenant governor could have a lot of influence on changing these state agencies. So I appreciate any help y'all can give me on that.
Thank you, JJ. God bless you, man, and we'll catch you later.
All right, catch you later, Bob.
Bye-bye.